Hello and welcome back to Oche Oche Oche. We've got lots to catch up on this evening and also lots to look forward to. Fans are set to return 3 more nights of Premier League action this week. But first, you wouldn't think ferrets have long enough arms to hit a 9 darter, but our very own Jonny Clayton has shown that it can be done. Guys, we've had 2 blocks of Premier League action now. Of course, Jonny's 9 darter, a couple of draws. I'm not talking about my 𝗢𝗵𝗵𝗲 draws, and some 10 plus averages thrown in for good measure. Sian, coming to you first, what's been your highlight of phase 1?
Oh, it sounds really cheesy, but I just loved every night watching Jonny Clayton come out, doing his walk on, looking like the happiest guy in the world. Just the smile on his face, the thrill that he was just like, I've made it, this is my dream, and I am like living my dream, like seeing someone, that is literally living their dream, loving it, playing absolutely, throwing the best darts, having such a good time. I love that, honestly, I absolutely love that. I loved the way that they ended as well, the first phase, with that win over Gary Anderson, and he was top of the table. It was just like, yes, what a fab way to win the week. And yeah, that was brilliant. I've loved it all, honestly. I've loved it all. It's been quite tiring to watch though, hasn't it? A bit. It's been quite full on.
Yeah, and I think I'd agree with Sian. It's just the consistency that Jonny's shown, like we've said on this pod many times, the belief has always been there, but was he able to kind of produce this night after night after night? And I think, being the sort of form man in 2021 coming into this tournament, I think maybe it's worked in his favour. Maybe the way that the tournament's kind of set out, playing in these blocks, if it was played in the sort of usual format over that 16 weeks every Thursday night, maybe we'd see a dip from Jonny maybe on a certain week where he had to travel or if he was tired. But I think the way this sort of format works suits Jonny. And I think the character, I think it was Mark Webster that mentioned it in punditry. He's probably one of those characters who can kind of forget about a defeat and move on to the next night, looking for positives and just, come on, Jonny back, let's start from start sort of thing. So, and that's what we found, in the nights he's had those losses or maybe a dip in a performance, he's come back, with a brilliant sort of average and a performance to foot, So yeah, obviously the second batch of games maybe not as impressive as the first, but he's there in contention and really looking forward to the second sort of tranche of games now.
But even in, it's weird when you look at the defeats to 𝗢𝗵𝗵𝗲 and James Wade in particular, he still averaged over a ton in those games. And, you think that, like you said, you kind of, in the normal format, you expect a dip at some point in the Premier League. And if you look at it on the face of it and you see the results, you might think, oh, was that his dip? But the performances were still there. And it is, like you said, it's that belief in his game. And we've known for so long when people say, has anything changed in his game? We've seen him play like this for so long. It's just that consistency. We've not seen him do it on a consistent basis. So often he'll, drift into the 1s or the 5s, but he's hitting that 20 so consistently. And it is that belief.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask a difficult question. What do you think, if anything, he needs to improve going into phase 2?
That is a question, isn't it?
I think it is the finishing, and the finishing has always been sort of Jonny's Achilles heel. And the scoring has definitely kind of gone up to another level. We're finding, with the averages, like you said, 10 plus averages. I think is it 6 of the 9 nights, and still the 3 dart average over the whole tournament. Jonny is the top average hitter. So yeah, I think if there was anywhere to sort of strengthen, it would be the doubles. Sort of double 16 bull finishes have been brilliant. It's just when he starts chasing the doubles going around the board, it's that little bit of doubt, I think, which comes to mind. And the way the table is set out now, 5 points between top and bottom, those legs are going to make a major difference come the end of night 16. So yeah, I think it's just that sort of tightening up on certain doubles, because the scoring is definitely there.
And it is certain. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, that was the crazy thing, wasn't it, about the table, that, you know, he was in 8th, wasn't he, I think, quite a few nights ago, and then you were just thinking 8th, and, you know, he's played so well, how can he be in 8th? You know, he hasn't lost that much, and that is the incredible thing about the table and how close they are. And he will probably be the first person to say about the doubles and the finishing, but just going back to what you said about his confidence and the belief, like 100%, that's why I think, you know, I know now it's like, oh, Jonny Clayton versus MVG, like, you know, you're going to back the ferret in that round, but he hadn't had that great a week until that match. No. And then, you know, he absolutely, like, I guess he must have been like, I can beat him, I've beaten him already, this, you know I can. And I think it was just that confidence of just like, I'm going to win. And he just came out thinking probably, yeah, I'm going to absolutely smash it. And he did. Yeah. That was another highlight, I think. That sort of, that result in such an emphatic win as well was just, it was a masterclass. It was superb.
Yeah. And just going back to the doubles briefly, I think the finishes you can also add to that, 25, taking out 25, I will honestly, I'll put everything I own on it. 25, and even 1-2-1. Like, there are certain finishes, combination finishes even, that he is just so good at. I think it's like you said, when he's chasing around the board, and I don't know whether that's because so much has been made of his counting, that then that becomes an issue in his own head. And again, that comes back to the confidence. Yeah. But also, he's the best player on tour, in my mind, at being able to have the dart in his hand, look away to check the score, and then come back and still get what he needs. Like, there's no other darts player that does that and keeps that concentration like him.
No, because you think back, you know, to Taylor in his prime, Sid Waddell, you know, the understacker. Well, Jonny is the top candidate now for the sort of the overstacker, the one that stacks on top, because anytime he drops short, you know, you could bet your mortgage on he'll float that over the top. It'll just sit on top of the dart, and, you know, he kind of gets, you know, 140 hitting is his strength now, isn't it? But you know, turning back to your question, maybe, Abby, what do we see he needs to strengthen? If he does that, you know, do we see him making the playoffs? Do we see him struggling to make the top 4?
I can't say anything but positives. No, I think he can still do it. Being in 5th, I know, as Sean said, it's such a tight table. But I just think where his game is, I think he'll be able to pick up enough points this week to see him in a good enough position. Yeah. And I just think now we see him in such a different light where, you know, as we've said, MVG, they just bring out the best in each other. Those two players, they always have done. They just bring out, you know, there's always a high average, and more often than not, I do fancy Jonny to win it. And I think another key thing with him is we know he's modest and he doesn't like to believe his own hype. And I think that's so important that he keeps that. I think that's such a key element to maybe how he does bounce back after a defeat, is just that he's so grounded. You know, it's endearing, it's pure. And like you said, Chan, he's just having a whale of a time. He's having a ball. He's not putting too much pressure on himself. But when he gets up on the oche, he still wants it as much as everyone else, which I think is a balance that is so, so difficult to get. I can see him scraping in 4th.
Yeah. You know, looking at these fixtures coming up, if we look at the first 3 nights now, then in this next block, so you got Wade, MVG, and Aspinall, and then Anderson, D'Souza, Wright, and Dimitri on that final sort of night. You know, if you look at the original 10, you know, you'd see Cross and Durrant, and you'd think, okay, there are 2 nights there where you were kind of hoping to sort of to set your stall, I think, and getting 2 points from those games. But then you look at these, and it is a complete coin toss now, isn't it? It's every night somebody's saying, okay, I think I could get a draw against him, or I'm going to need so many legs. You know, when it comes down to night 15, 16, the people are going to be sort of targeting leg wins, maybe, in terms of against somebody like MVG or Dimmy, who will be absolutely flying. So, you know, what do you think in terms of Wade now? You know, Jonny's got a brilliant head-to-head record against him, but both decided to stay home, didn't they? Didn't go to the Super Series in Germany. So you'd like to think it'll be a close sort of match, won't it?
And of course, talking about positive things, we've got the eagerly anticipated return of fans. Now, we saw it obviously work so well over the 17 days at the snooker. I don't know about you guys though. For me, it was quite a mixture of emotions. Getting to see the Ferret in the Premier League for the first time, not as a contender, obviously. I think all three of us were there, weren't we, when he took on Michael Smith in Cardiff? But that's going to be fantastic. However, you can't help but feel how gutting it is for Gezzy. I know it couldn't be helped at all, the circumstances and the right measures were taken by the PDC. I'm not questioning that at all. But we now have to wait even longer for him to be introduced as a world champion in front of a crowd. Obviously, we've got everything crossed that we can give him that reception in Blackpool at the end of July. But it is so disappointing, isn't it, that, you know, he's been sat at home watching, I don't know, I think you guys have been showing me what he's been posting on Instagram, and it's so disappointing for him that this is meant to be his year. And it's just panned out the way it has because of these unfortunate circumstances. But yeah, what are your feelings? Are you kind of the same, kind of mixed?
I'm glad, you know, that he is okay, thankfully, you know, that he wasn't ill with COVID. That is such a relief as well, and his family and everyone. I just think I think it was so hard watching the start of the Premier League, to be honest. Like, it didn't feel like it was like such a big hole. Like, Gezzy not being there was a big loss, I felt, and it did take a few days for me personally to get quite into it, because I was just like, oh, the world champ should be here, you know, the world #1 should be here. And, you know, it did sort of tar, I guess, the beginning bit of it a little bit, you know, to feel like gutted. And I think that day, you know, when it started, we knew it wasn't in it. You know, it was like a sucker punch. It was like it really, like, you know, such a sad thing for fans. And, you know, I saw on Twitter and stuff, like, even, you know, people who aren't massive Gezzy fans, you know, were like, this is so gutting, like, it shouldn't be, you know, we want him there. And I think it was sort of felt by everyone, really. It was such a shame. I mean, health-wise, obviously, that's the most important thing. He's well, and his family, and but it's sad. And now to think, as you said, he's not going to be called out as the world champion in front of fans. You know, fingers crossed it will all go well, and it's a great test event that, you know, for match play we'll have him out then. But yeah, it is tough. I do feel sorry for him. And just talking about, you know, fans back, that also leads into how the player's going to be performing as well in front of fans, because quite a few of the sort of more established, older, not really that old, but, you know, the other, it's like people like Peter Wright said, you know, like, let's see what happens when we have fans back, you know, because that might change the way that some of these sort of younger players, or, you know, the players that are not quite established, might be playing. So it's great, all positive, and also I think it adds another element to the Premier League to see, like, actually what will happen now we've got fans back. But if it's judging anything by the crucible, you know, yesterday it was just absolutely incredible, and I think it's going to be really loud. I think the fans are going to be like, you're not going to be shutting people up, because it's like, we've been let out of the house for the first time and we're actually watching live sport, so it's going to be like a sort of darts atmosphere times 100, I think. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see what happens. But yeah, I definitely agree with you, mixed feelings, but in a positive step, that's for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. That Monday morning was just like a real sucker punch, you know, because everything had been building up, you know, the sort of pre-tournament media, and you know, when the news came through, I just thought it kind of not affected the status of the tournament, but, you know, not having your poster boy, you're not having your world champion involved in, you know, one of the, you know, the pinnacle tournaments of the year, I think was a massive blow to 𝗢𝗰𝗵𝗲. And, you know, probably the heads of the PDC are absolutely gutted, you know, that their sort of main man isn't there week to week, night to night. And, you know, in a lot of that sort of pre-tournament media, 𝗢𝗰𝗵𝗲 had been talking, about lack of motivation, wanting fans back, wanting to show off being world champion in front of these people. So it'll be interesting to see how he adapts. And again, you know, we've mentioned it many times. He's had to adapt. He's had to show strength of character to come through many challenges. And I think this is another barrier, another stumbling block in his career, which I really hope he will come through. You know. I think I was working it out earlier. It'll be nearly 3 months since he will have thrown a competitive dart. He lost in the final of Players Championship 8 against Peter Wright. And, you know, with the announcement of Super Series 4 now in June, you know, you're talking roughly 85, 90 days. So I was just thinking, you know, if I was off work for 3 months and I go back and sit at a computer, everything is going to be alien for a few days. And, you know, that'll probably be the same for Gezzy. You know, whoever plays him on that first day in PC 16, PC 13, sorry, will be thinking, oh, you know what, I could probably take him here, sort of thing. But yeah, massive sort of blow. You know, I was really looking forward. It was one of the tournaments he was really focusing on doing well in this year. Yeah, and for him not to get that chance is a massive blow. And you know, if it wasn't for Jonny being involved, I don't know whether I would have kept watching night after night after night. But I think with 𝗢𝗰𝗵𝗲 and Jose and Jonny being the debutants and doing so well and giving that sort of fresh feel to the league really has helped 𝗢𝗰𝗵𝗲's mission, I feel.
I don't think he's going to lack any motivation coming back, that's for sure.
I completely agree.
I don't think he has to worry about that. I think he'd take Milton Keynes or wherever he has to be, and you know, yeah, that's one positive, I suppose, as well. Thinking about that, and so yeah, you know, just talking about the debutants. Like I loved watching 𝗢𝗰𝗵𝗲 as well, but also Jose de Sousa, I love him now. He's just one of my highlights was definitely that post-match interview when he was like, I can't believe you missed it, and he's just like, get over it, I'm not bothered, you know, the miscount. And he was just like, you need to go to a doctor because if it's keeping you up at night, like that's weird. Like I'm fine about it. I just absolutely love that. He's you know, I think he's just good, and look at how well he's done in Super Series as well. It's brilliant, and he's such a fun player. I love watching him, even with the miscounts. That probably makes it a bit more fun because you're like, is he going to miscount it or not? But that's also been another highlight, I think, for me for the Premier League, is watching him every night. And he's a great, you know, great competitor as well, a nice person to watch. Is it a bonus for that to have, you know, engaging characters that are happy to be there, that, you know, are grateful to sort of have that chance and do well, but they're just nice guys, aren't they? Fun. So I'm on a tangent, but I had to get that in because I've been so enjoying
that's
it.
That's the thing he's got, you know, there are a lot of things I think he's got in common with the 𝗢𝗰𝗵𝗲, aren't there? I'm not just talking about the miscounting. It's, you know, they're just the two most likable players on tour, I think. Yeah, and another thing that I just love about Jose de Sousa, whoever taught him to walk onto the stage doing these hearts and blowing these kisses, it's absolutely fantastic. I'm sure Mac Elkin will want to take the credit for it, so we can give it to him. But it just shows that side of him, and it's like you said, you know, it's everyone's praised it at the snooker over the past 17 days, but we're so blessed that we've got this in abundance in darts as well. And it's just, I don't know, I think it gives us that extra connection, and it's just so enjoyable. I think it's absolutely hilarious, and sometimes it doesn't seem like, yeah, it's just that expression. It's just, I mean, I don't know if you've been practicing that, Sean, but it was uncanny.
I've just got the gif in my head over and over that, oh well, I miscounted, like, oops, like never mind.
Yeah.
It's such a good attitude to have, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's just, you know, I think that's why we've all fallen in love with him, as well as being a superb darts player. But another thing that I'll pick up on that you mentioned a short while ago was, you know, 𝗢𝗰𝗵𝗲 and having crowds back. And you just think he has been phenomenal during the Premier League.
Yeah.
And he's a player that when he plays on the floor doesn't normally deliver because he doesn't like playing behind closed doors and without fans there. How on earth, when you have the fans come back, surely he can't take this up a notch? Surely he's hit the ceiling. Like, how on earth? Because I was thinking when the Premier League started, maybe he'll start a bit slower, because I know he's won tournaments behind closed doors and he has looked good at times, but the Premier League is that show, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he is that showman.
Yeah.
And I just thought it would take him a little bit longer to settle. But when fans come back, surely he's gonna be, well, I can't even imagine how he could be better.
Yeah, because it was funny, you know, during the match play, he was absolutely immense. There was nobody to touch him, really. He just looked destined to win that title. And then, like you say, there were a few more majors then, you know, towards the end of the year, and I was thinking, well, if he's done it once in this sort of environment, what's stopping him? But obviously it didn't click, and I was just thinking, was the match play maybe a flash in the pan? But you know, in many interviews now since the Premier League start, there's been talk about his health with his knee, and he's moved over to England now. So there's a lot of things are new to him, really. So, you know, if this is the 𝗢𝗵𝗵 that we're going to see in the future, who is settled and, you know, obviously his management stable are very supportive and, you know, give him the right sort of support. You know, this is somebody who I really think could go to the top of the game and challenge for years. And, you know, ironically, you know, all the talk is, oh, he can't play on the floor. And then he's just gone to Germany last week, and he's won his first floor tournament. So yeah, you know, things are looking really, really bright for 𝗢𝗵𝗵, and you know, I'd expect him to be one of the top 4 come the end of next week, I think.
Comfortably.
Yeah, comfortably.
Yeah.
What is it? I can't work out what it is that's made him click on the floor, whether it's just, you're gonna have to, mate. Like, you've got no alternative, because it's not Pro Tour, and then you go and play a Euro Tour in front of fans at other tournaments. So it's just something he's had to.
I know he's been practicing a lot with Jose, isn't he, recently? I don't know whether it's that, maybe the you know, the increase in sort of the opponent you're practicing with, has that kind of taken him to a different level, where, because he's always been focused, and I think he's one of those players, maybe if there was a crowd there, he seems to just be sort of so channeled that I don't know whether he's fully aware of the environment he's actually playing in, which makes the fact that he hasn't won any floor tournaments until now even more sort of baffling. But you know, scoring wise, finishing, he's been fantastic so far, and yeah, I'd comfortably see him qualify for the playoffs.
Definitely. And just finally, I think, Sean, have you got a question that we're going to read out and we're going to have a little look into? But I think it was such a good question that we want to look into it a bit further in one of our upcoming episodes. So I think we're going to have a little chat about it.
This is from Gezzy P182, who sent a question in on Instagram, so thank you for that. And the question is, if you could have, in a fantasy Premier League, any players, past, future, present, well, future, present now, which 10 players would you have in your fantasy Premier League? Which is a really, really, really good question, and very hard to think about, which is why I'm asking it as well. So I'm not down to that. Sneaky, because again, Pisces, I can't decide. How on earth could I decide 10 of everyone? And also I'd be very biased with Wales probably, but yeah.
Do you want to go first, Abby?
Right, okay, yeah, so I'm just gonna say, I've not thought about this in terms of it being an actual tournament at all, or it actually working. They're just players that I like, not necessarily the ones I think have been the greatest ever. So I don't know whether this renders the exercise completely pointless, but we're going to go with it anyway. I've gone for Dirk. We've got his pants ready. We're ready for it. Yes, I'm just going to run through them. Jockey Wilson would be another one that, you know, he's so unique, and a player whose playing days were over long before I was born, but someone I've enjoyed learning about a lot. I've seen a lot of clips, obviously, of the '89 World Final, and heard many players talking fondly of him. Eric Bristow would be another one in there. Barney, Gezzy Price, Ferret, because there's always room for a ferret. I'd go Co-Stompy. I've got a jumper with him on. I absolutely, I adore. It can't even fit me in, but yeah, I'm going to do it there. I'm going to put Chizzy in there because watching him play darts makes me really happy when he can hit his doubles. The Asp is in there. I think we've already spoken about, you know, the attributes that he's got that make him so excited. And then I'm going to throw in one. I'm calling it now. Louis Williams is one for the future. I know we've spoken about him a lot, but I just think his game suits it so much because he's got the X factor. He said, you know, when we spoke to him, that he just loves playing on the streaming board when it comes to the Pro Tour. And I think he's one that'll take to, you know, we've also seen it at the UK, of course. He'll really take to playing on the big stage. And yeah, I think he'd be my other one, just as a little wild card, as someone who I think could be there in the future.
Just talking about Louis as well, what about that Super Series win over the Asp?
Yeah.
Amazing.
16 finish, and he beat him 6-3, didn't he? So that must have been, yeah, good. Really pleased about that. That was great. One really positive for the Welsh lads from the Super Series. Sorry, just as an aside.
Yeah, maybe differently differently to Abby. Then I've gone more sort of safer somehow, and I think, you know, anybody who can maintain playing at a standard at a high level for 16 weeks of a Premier League probably deserves to be in maybe the ultimate sort of fantasy league. So, you know, I've gone with the champions: Taylor, MVG, Anderson, Wade, Barney. Durrant's in there as a, you know, in the mix. Obviously, he's had a, you know, really disappointing campaign, but then you think he's a 3-time BDO world champion. He came over to the PDC, water off a duck's back, really, that first season. It was unbelievable, you know, winning his first title and going deep in a few of the majors. So Durrant would have to be in the mix. Bristow, Wilson, yeah, same as Abby, you know, just hearing stories about that sort of confrontation, you know, and with the Premier League, you know, it's the circus, it's the exhibition element where, you know, you want those venues to be full, and, you know, can you imagine 12,000 people watching those two? It would be absolutely bouncing. Another name I was going to throw in was John Part, just because, you know, won the BDO, won the PDC, and was probably one of the players that kind of stood up to Taylor, you know, wasn't afraid of the bolshiness, wasn't afraid of the bravado and all, you know, all the build up around Taylor, and just kind of stood up and took him on at face value.
And you get the good walk on. You get to enjoy the walk on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to say, he's one of the best commentators out there at the moment as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then if going for a more of a sentimental pick, I'd always go Burnett, Richie Burnett. Just, you know, he's the reason that I've kind of fallen in love with darts. He was the star, you know, when I was 11, 12 years old. So yeah, you know, watching Richie back in the mid-90s was a massive sort of draw to me. And, you know, his sort of characteristics on stage, you know, Sky would absolutely love it. You know, the fans in the venues would be, you know, just jumping off their seats watching Richie. So yeah, you know, those are the names in the mix. But I think, you know, there are many others. You know, John Lowe, absolute legend of the game. You know, Martin Adams, I don't think doesn't get the plaudits he deserves.
Yeah, I almost put him in. He was so close.
Yeah.
If I hadn't gone for Louis Williams, he would have been my pick.
Yeah, you know, he's still, you know, playing in this online darts live league, and, you know, these young boys thinking, oh, you know, Martin's passed it, and he's still got it. He's one hell of a player. And I think, you know, if we're looking for multiple champions, you know, you have to look at people like Trina Gulliver, Lisa Ashton, you know, they're all champions in their own right. You know, whoever was in front of you, you still had to beat them, and to win multiple titles, you know, they all have to come into the mix. And, you know, as we've seen with this year's lineup in the Premier League, we need that sort of variation of character, because if they're all robots, it's no different, is it?
And Lisa, how exciting has Lisa been on the Pro Tour as well? I've thoroughly enjoyed. There are some games she's been so unfortunate. I think the one that stands out, Robert Thornton, she played at the start of the season, and she should have beaten him, but just missed too many doubles. And she's just been so fantastic to watch. And another one, I don't think she gets the plaudits she deserves. No. I think she's exceptional to watch, and yeah, I'd love to see it in our little fantasy bubble. She can definitely.
Yeah.
It would be nice if you know, if any viewers or listeners, if they send us their top 10 as well. That would be interesting as well. So if you disagree or agree, or you've got your idea, I'd like to see what everyone else says as well. So yeah, get in touch with yours if you've got one. That would be good to see. It might change as well by the end of the year. Next time we should. It's one of those ones we could put a peg in and keep talking about, because it's such a, you know, oh my gosh, choosing anyone. Yeah, so it might be interesting to revisit that maybe at the end of the year and see if there is anyone that's, you know, really impressed us that could, you know, take one of those places possibly. Yeah, it's a good one. I just feel like, you know, I think with all of us, you know, in Britain at the moment, you know, it's nice to think like, you know, the lights at the end of the tunnel a little bit, and it feels so lovely to actually think that, oh my goodness, you know, you could be watching live darts with a live audience soon. You know, it's great, isn't it? It's what the sport needs. Like, you know, watching the snooker, you know, we all watch the snooker, and you know, when they talk about people cheering, I think, gosh, we're so lucky in darts, you know, that you have that, you know, the players can, you know, celebrate like that, and you know, and the audience do get involved. You know, obviously there are some idiots that say shout out things that are not appropriate and things, but generally, like, you know, it's a fun atmosphere, and the singing and things like that. Like, it's going to be amazing to have the fans back, and darts of all the sports, I think, really misses that. You know,
and I think one positive, you know, matchroom sport are linked obviously with snooker and with darts, and I think, you know, they've shown over the last 17 days in the Crucible, you know, gradually increasing the crowds. Everything seemed very safe there. The protocols seem to be followed very well. So I wouldn't see any reason why, you know, the Premier League that second week, you know, the 1,000 fans, hopefully, fingers crossed, will be increased by July when we get to the Winter Gardens in match play and the match play.
Yeah, I think the thing as well, like the thing that I really, really miss is interacting with other fans, you know, people that I don't know, and I might not, it's the beauty of sport, isn't it? You know, you might not have much in common with them outside of sport, but the one thing that I absolutely love, and it's something that I've done quite a lot of the Premier League actually, after the players finish, you know, you go back to the pub or the bar, and there are other fans in there, and you just sit down and just talk darts, and you talk about different tactics, and you share different opinions, and that's where, you know, you get a greater understanding. You learn something, they learn your opinions, and I really, really miss that. I guess what we've got here in person. You know, I cannot wait to get back to that, just meeting new people and talking darts with them. So hopefully we'll see you at the bar in Milton Keynes.
Yes.
Actually, I think it's table service, but you know what I mean.
We also joked, didn't we, that it's just like what other sport is going to be like, you are allowed to have fancy dress, but you must wear your mask at all time. It's like, we love how this is like not a kids party invitation. It's like, no, this is grown adults, you know, you are allowed to wear fancy dress. It's just only in the darts, isn't it? I love all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. It's been great to chat darts yet again, and as Sian said, hopefully you've got your top 10 players that you'd have. I think it's really difficult to narrow it down to 10, so if you've got a few more, we'll try not to be too strict about it, but yeah, it's been great to chat, and as always, if any of you want to come and join us, because we're always keen to hear different opinions and different views on the game and our Welsh stars. So yeah, if you've got anything to add, you want to come and chat to us, please do feel free to join us, send us a message.